We
Kia ora,
are,
team.
kia ora. We are officially, this is the first time I think I've done this with a couple of others in the screen, and my hope is that my connection holds out today. If it doesn't, there's a couple of other great people on the call that can keep driving while I jump out of
You
the...
look like you might have frozen there, Shiz.
Oh,
a good
cool. So
freeze
we've still
frame,
got
though.
audio?
It's a nice
Still good
photo.
audio.
It's a great photo. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, while my freeze frame has got me on a good shot, I want to get us into this event pretty quickly because what I'm here to do is be the receiver of this education and this learning, which is super exciting because I wanted to start first of all with just sharing a little bit around how the session came about. And as someone who has worked for many, many years for others, I'm currently on a journey where I am building my own business. And I still refer to myself as a solopreneur because I am building something. I am the core engine of it, but I have a real desire to bring something to life that is much bigger than me and that hopefully lives well beyond me. So, in order to do that, what I'm learning is I need to learn how to scale my own business. I've spent years helping other companies scale their businesses, but there is something much more challenging about really doing it yourself. I think my empathy level for the leaders that I've coached is going through the roof because there's a high chance I'm probably part of the problem or what's getting in the way of my growth. And so where this sort of came about was I was talking with agilePete around these concepts around how to scale and certainly how to do this in a way that is connected into how I want to work and the way in which I want my organization to work. We got talking about Wardley mapping. This is a term that I've heard many times people talking about. And each time I'm sort of nodding, going, I think I kind of know what that is, but I don't really know. I've certainly not done any formal training on it. And when we started to talk about this idea about strategic business building, strategic mapping, how to validate things perhaps before you invest too much time and energy into them, Wardley mapping came up again. And I threw the challenge to agilePete as to whether or not he'd be open to sharing some of the concepts around Wardley mapping live. Now that kind of snowballed a little to why don't we do, and this was, and I admire agilePete for throwing this down, was what if we did this live with the map? And so this sort of opened up an event. I threw it into the Humans at Work channel, which Humans at Work is the business that I'm launching, and I'm in the process of launching. Humans at Work will be the business that we actually look at today when we're starting to test with this map. So I'm going to do this live quite vulnerably. So pull up a chair, make a cup of tea, and settle in for what I think is going to be a really interesting conversation. The tone today is, this isn't a presentation of here is exactly what Wardley mapping is. There is so much education out there. What I understand to be true is that it can take people quite a long time to go from understanding what Wardley mapping is to actually building their first map. And this is what agilePete would love to explore today and see if we can do this. So before we get into it, I want to introduce, first of all, a couple of very special people to me. You may notice that we all have the same surname, which is so beautiful. I get to work and learn and share today with both my sister and my dad, which is incredible. So first of all, I'm gonna flip over to Indi Dust. Indi put forward again another suggestion, which I think there's a bit of a trend within within our family. Put forward the idea after we said we're going to do this live event. It's going to be around Wardley mapping, and she said, "Would you like to bring it to life visually?" And I said, "Yes, I would. I would love to." I've seen Indi's work in motion, and it is incredible. I'd love to start, first of all, as your intro, Indi, around what is a strategic visual storyteller and how did you become one?
Oh, thank you, Shiz. It's so exciting to be here with my Tansey crew. We have a saying in our family that we're Tansies and we're crazy, and I think this is a testament to this. We love to just take on new challenges. So thank you to everyone for coming and seeing this live. So a strategic visual storyteller is as one, I transform complex ideas and processes into these really engaging and clear visuals at its basic. How did I get into this? Well, I have this background in communication, in art, and then I kind of got into tech startups and I was a board director. And so I've kind of got this unique mashup of art and strategy. And so I found that my visuals, they can really simplify things right back to the basics and bring clarity, help inspire teams and kind of align them again, around taking action in the direction they want to go. So that's what I'm here to do today. I'm going to be live drawing, so we'll put my screen up on this so everyone can see it as Pete and Cheryl kind of map out this Wardley exciting extravaganza new world that we're about to enter. So thanks for having me, Shiz.
Yes, and I love how lit up you get when you start to share this. And just as a side note, Indy is also testing new software, possibly new hardware. There's a whole lot of experimentation, and her screen only just started working about 15 seconds before we went live.
Right when it needed to.
Right when it needed to, the right timing. So we're so fortunate. Thank you for sharing this, and perhaps we can chuck a link to your website in the comments as well, so that people can find you on LinkedIn.
Great. That would be excellent.
All right, so let's flip to agilePete. Before we get into the Wardley mapping, one of the pieces that I am most excited to ask you is around, you've been in this space for a very long time, in terms of, really one of the kind of founding advocates for agile, certainly here in New Zealand, but also around the world. You've seen a lot of different things come and go, I'm sure, in the business space. I think probably half of New Zealand's agile coaches and product owners have been trained by Pete at some point. And you've made a real impact, certainly here in the agile world within New Zealand. So whenever you're bringing in new ideas and concepts, people take notice. So I think it's so cool that you're bringing this in. But my question to start us, what lights you up about the work that you do?
Oh, I think it's delivering stuff that makes people smile. So it might sound the wrong way around being a coach, but what really lights me up is when I see teams that deliver stuff that customers like, that the team are proud of, and that, even more importantly, the leaders that are actually funding this and getting the money for us to do the work, they're smiling as well, because they've got assurance in what they're getting. And so everything that I try and do is all with that in mind.
So it's like when they smile, you smile, everyone's smiling.
It's like the key metric that I use. If people aren't smiling, then we're not quite doing it right. And if people are smiling, and you got to remember, there's contention between these different parties, because a team might be wanting to do it differently or deeper or broader or richer than a leader can actually get funding for. And a customer might be going, yeah, that's, I love what you've done, but it's not what I want. So those conversations that I facilitate are bringing those three people together and making sure that we're aligned, so that our expectations are aligned. And that way we've got more chance of everyone smiling rather than just one party smiling.
Well, Wardley mapping, let's get in. I know that we've got some incredible humans tuning in from the other side of the world, who may or may not be able to last the whole live session if you need to go to bed. Good news is you can view this recording on this event page. So when the event ends, you can come back here and re-listen in case there's some little golden nuggets that you want to take away. But I want to get into Wardley mapping. And like we said, we're not doing a full presentation of what it is. There is so much content out there. But I'd love you to perhaps kick us off with understanding a little bit around, if you were sitting down in a coffee shop right now and you bumped into someone and someone said, that Wardley mapping stuff, what is that about? What value does this give to me? Why would I be interested in it? What comes to mind when someone asks you about Wardley mapping?
I've got a set of techniques that I use, that help teams and leaders align performance to make everyone smile. What I've never had previously was something almost like a crystal ball that told me that I was working on the right things. So when I talk to people, I go, I can make sure that, or not make sure, but I can improve your chances hugely that your team will make you smile with what they deliver. But is that strategically aligned with where you're going? And I've looked at lots of different techniques and approaches, KPIs, OKRs, that sort of thing. And I haven't found anything quite the same as Wardley mapping. So my little tippet or a little bit of an enticement into actually learning about this is that Simon Wardley, who created it, I'd call him a futurist. He's got a little interesting label on his website called Thought Leader. I think he's the closest to deity that I've come across in my extensive experience in working in this space. I actually believe he's a very modest guy. And I think this is part of the challenge that Wardley Mapping's got. He's English. He's got an English quirky sense of humor, very kind and very generous with everything that he does. He's actually got a crystal ball into the future using Wardley Mapping. And if you want a little bit of a crystal ball, like he's done this for 20 years now, if you want a little bit of a crystal ball, I'd suggest you start to learn about how you can use this to start to predict success. Now, he can't tell you when something will happen, but if you look at his track record over the last 20 years, the trends that he's predicted and where the world's gone are hugely important for any sort of business. So crystal ball is my little enticer.
So when looking into that crystal ball and thinking around, there are so many tools right out there. There are so many concepts and tools. What makes this one, other than obviously the fact that he's been able to prove some of those predictions, so that helps to validate that he is onto something. But what is it for you that makes you want to, you've done, training around this now, you've grasped some of the concepts, you now train others on it. What is it that makes this particularly helpful and important, or how do you see this being particularly helpful and important for the people that you work with?
It's not easy to explain, and that is the challenge, Cheryl. And this is why we're doing what we're doing today. There's a body of knowledge out there that is called Wardley mapping, and a Wardley map is the cornerstone piece of that. I think, as I confessed in my repost of this to the audience, if anyone's watching, I probably spent 5 years before I seriously started creating any maps. And Simon Wardley actually talks about the fact that on average it takes people about 7 years, 6 years, 11 months procrastinating, and then they finally get around to doing it. And it takes sort of about a month of practicing this stuff before you start to become fluent in it. So it's not very long to get reasonably fluent, but you just got to practice it. So that's why we've said just do it. Now, what's the tool got is a way of looking at things and a way of explaining it, like the architecture behind the Wardley mapping body of knowledge really hangs together when you try and test it. But there is over 100 techniques or principles or patterns that you get swamped with when you first take it on board. So the value is, and this is part of, I think, why people struggle a little bit. You've got to have done some of it and started to apply some of those techniques onto your map before you start to see the value. But what you can then say with some confidence is actually, I'm working on the right thing. I know why I'm working on this particular part of my business to change the way we're actually going to do things. The second thing that I got from Wardley mapping is that you might have a vision as an organization, and that vision can change, and that's quite valid. And previously I thought once an organization's got a vision and a mission, that's it for life, sort of thing. And what I've realized, it's strategy is a circle, and we go around it once and we get around and we take some action and we change. The world changes, and so everything's open to change. And with that many moving parts, you want some way of being able to visualize it. Now, what I understand, and I'm not a strategy expert, I've just found this Wardley mapping tool or this body of knowledge, and I found it incredibly useful, more useful than the other things that I've parried with. And so how good it is, I don't fully know yet. And I'm early in my journey. And, Simon Wardley's been doing this for 20 years, and he goes, we're still at the clay tablet stage for this stuff. This is not, super sophisticated yet. It's not going to work for everyone. He's very modest about what he's actually created. So what I thought we'd do today is go, you've got to have a map, a Wardley map, that's your cornerstone, before you can start to apply some of the other stuff. So what I was hoping to do today was get the basics in place using you as the recipient and just showing you using a very good little basic tool from Tristan, from MapKeep, and we would have a play and we'd go through some steps. Now, I might have this completely wrong, but this is my suggested way of stopping the procrastination. So I'm definitely not an expert on Wardley mapping, but I am an expert on procrastination. So for those of you out there that are listening to this that are a procrastinator, this is a good little way of getting started.
Awesome. Before we kick into it, I've seen there's a few comments coming through that this is streaming live, but only if you access it through your email invite. Not sure. I'm looking on the actual page, and it says that the event will start soon, but we've got everything hooked up. I'm not quite sure, but I believe that people can view it if you go into the link within the invite that's in your calendar. So if you're registered for the event, though if you're listening to this, you probably have already figured that out. I'm not sure. I'll see if I can do a little bit of troubleshooting in the background to see why that's not appearing over there.
Cheryl, while you're doing that, Cheryl, shall I just jump in and if you can share the screen for me?
I sure can.
We'll just start the conversation. And I wonder if I can make that a little bit bigger.
How's that?
I'll just move my screen across a little bit, and I might just be able to blow up my screen. We're learning a little bit. So what I thought I'd do today, and Cheryl and I pivoted on this, how we'd present this 3 or 4 times. There we are. That's better, isn't it? Yep. And we were initially going to treat it as a training session. We were initially going to treat it as a chat. And I said, Cheryl, the biggest challenge that Wardley Maps has is initial adoption, getting started. I said, what say we just do this and get started? And so Cheryl turned it back to me and said, okay, so if you were running the session for someone else, what sort of prep would you get them to do? And I go, actually, I haven't really done that before. I just start the session with them and I work through, and I've got a set of questions that I ask, but I've never sort of tried to do that. And so what we did was we wrote down for Cheryl a set of questions, and this is the only prep that Cheryl's done. So she's had a look at these questions, and so we've got 5 questions, and basically this will help us start to put the stuff onto our first Wardley map. Now I'm using a very simple tool called MapKeep. And when I say simple, Tristan, it's simple because it's easy to use, and it's got all the things that I need. And so that's what we're starting with. I will just put, if those of you that are listening, that I will just...
We love simplicity.
Yep. I'll just put the link to this map that we've got here, because these maps, you can make them public. Tristan's got a paid option with this tool, which will allow you to collaborate with other users. And so you can do this stuff jointly. All right, so let me just find the link. I've gone in. There we go. And how do I put it, Cheryl? Could you tell me, into the chat so that it stays in the chat?
I believe you can put it into the chat on the right-hand side of the screen. You see got a little menu to the side, and you've got chat is at the bottom of that.
I've got a private chat I can see, but I think that must be just us as presenters.
Yeah, so chat to the right-hand side of the screen, or put it in the private chat and I can flick it into the...
Maybe if I do that...
Put it wherever and I'll chuck it over there.
Yeah, I'll pop it in there if you can pop it up. Now, what I've done is I've put these questions in a public map, and I'll put the link in that Cheryl will share. If you just click on that link, it will open that map for you and open up MapKeep. if you're interested in creating a login, it's free to initially log in. You can then take a copy of these questions and you can start to map along with us. And so we're going to go through these as 5 steps, and we'll call them Overcoming Pete's Procrastination, to actually get started with a Wardley map. So the first thing that we're going to ask is, what are your lines of business? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pick one of those as a starting point, because when you do your first map, or even when you're doing a map, you've got to define the scope and the context of that map. So what we'll do is, in order to do that, each of these questions, I've got a little suggestion. Where's a good place to start? Because sometimes when I've been trying to start a map and start with people, it's kind of the question seems obvious, and if you can step back and have done a bit of thinking about it, you can start to reel things off. But where would you go and look for this sort of information within your existing environment? So I've tried to throw some ideas in. Now, what I'd be keen is if anyone else has got ideas around where you source this sort of information from. As a domain expert, you'll know a lot of it already and you'll know where to go. And one of the keys with this is having a domain expert working and creating the map. Now, we're assuming that Cheryl's our domain expert because it's her business. And my understanding, Cheryl, is we're going to look at the line of business.
One of my masterclasses.
And oops, I'm just going to, so we're going to make the name, we're going to change the name, and this is our scope, Cheryl's master classes. So what we've done now is we've initially created some boundaries around what we're thinking about. It's not the whole business. Now, if you had multiple lines of business, you'd map each line of business. So that's the first one. So now we're actually going to get onto the map itself, the canvas, and who are the people that buy or use your products and service? So who are the people that are going to buy or use your masterclasses?
So this was when you first asked me this question, and this probably potentially helps people recognize why maybe people don't always get started on maps, is one of the things I'm finding with my business is I am experimenting as I create things, who they appeal to, as I begin to get clearer on who my ideal customer is. So that might be due to the evolution of where I'm at in building my business. I'm imagining for some organizations, they might have already done a bunch of work around who their ideal customer is. I'm still getting clearer on that. But from what I know so far is that the people, certainly when I think about these masterclasses, they're called Next Move masterclasses, they're designed for people that are in career transitions. So they are either upping their role in their current organization, they're moving into a new role, they're changing, they are potentially leaving their job and going and starting their own thing, or they're moving to a new organization, they're in a transition. And so my customer for this is someone who is highly motivated and intelligent and smart, and has no issue with knowing how to do their work, but they're trying to work out how it fits into who they are. And so there's a lot of work that I do with them around the values and aligning their career to that. So it is people who are, and I say highly motivated because this is quite important for me as a coach. When I'm working with people, they're willing to step into the change. And sometimes we're not. Sometimes it's not the right time. But that is quite clear for me now. What I'm noticing is the people that really benefit from these are willing to go there. So that's the start of the forming of some of my customer personas that I'm working on.
So the beauty, and this is one of the things that any training course, any documentation, any of the books you read around Wardley mapping, and Simon's very strong on it, the power is actually not so much in the things that we put on the map. It's the conversations we have around the things that we put on the map. So it's articulating the intent that is behind it. So I put a little blob on the map, and you're going to notice that I'm just going to put a whole lot of blobs on the map here, and I'm going to give them a label. You've heard Cheryl talk about it. Somewhere behind the scenes, we would start to describe that, and you will be starting to describe that somewhere. And when we do training, we would have something called a community onion, or product or service community onion, which talks about all our stakeholders, all our community members, and we would start to describe this. You even heard Cheryl use the word persona. So as you're working your way through, you'll start to find that. Now, I find the more specific I can be about my customer, the easier it is for me to imagine as I go further down this chain that I'm going to create, the easier it is for me to start to talk about those things. And Simon Wardley says this multiple times in his initial literature that you'll be reading. Be very clear on who your user is and what your user needs are. So this is the first step. Now, you might have noticed I've just clicked over here, and you'll see if you're following along and you're wanting to create your own map here, or do the same thing that I'm doing just in your own version, there's a little icon there, and it's called a user anchor. And I just clicked on that and I put it on there. So there's sharp, fast keys with this. I could have just gone U for user, and it would have popped it in there.
Cool.
Actually, did I put the right one on there? Having said that, Cheryl, no, I was talking. Oh, darn. Let me just fix that. So it's really easy just to update the stuff. And I had the wrong one. So that's actually going to be my next one, and it's a user need. Now, let's have a look at our second question. So in the Wardley mapping body of knowledge, they talk about user needs all the time. And one of the principles is you've got to know your user needs. You've got to know why your user is going to buy your product. It's easier said than done. And quite often we only have really vague understanding of our user needs and why, what is the job? What's the value? So the key thing here is go and find all the people. I'm up to question 3. Go and find all the people from your stakeholder map, and then drill down and start to look at customer journey maps, business story maps, that sort of thing, and start to look at where the pain points are of people that have jobs they've got to do or processes they've got to follow, and things that they actually want to solve that make sense to them. And if you haven't got any of that stuff, I suggest that person that you just identified as your customer, go and ask them. Amazing, isn't it? Go and talk to your customer. So there might be a delay point here while you go, ooh, I don't really know that. I might have to go and do some customer research. But for the purposes of what we're going to do, we're going to assume we do. We're going to chuck something in, and maps are never perfect. So we put something on the map.
If it helps, I have got a Post-it note here which says set up user group. I have a Post-it note. Just haven't quite actioned it yet. But that's really already doing this process is helping me to be able to identify already some of the areas that are going to help me to build my map. Even though I know this stuff, again, do this with others. It's a really good reminder just having these questions and having someone hold the space for me to think about these, to remind me how important it actually is to get that moving. So I'm already, that's going to the top of my list, my user group.
It's kind of some patterns or some principles coming out here, isn't there? That these are things that we actually know, and this gives us a little structure. It's also giving us a canvas to put it onto that we're calling a map. We'll talk about why it's called a map in a little bit, but let's just keep going. So we've got master classes. We've got our customers or the people that are going to use this stuff, are motivated, intelligent leaders in transition. So question 3, why? I'll just drag him down so I get him opposite question 3. Why do people want your masterclasses? What are they trying to do?
All right. Should I just riff here on what comes up for me when we?
And I'll see what I can take out of it and chuck something down. Now, what I'll do is I'll actually chuck a couple of these in, because there's often 2 or 3 key user needs. Or whys. Yeah. So where you go.
Cool. All right. Why do they need this? They are stuck. That's usually the language that I hear when people talk to me about what they're looking for is the opposite of that. So what their current state is, they're either stuck, as in they don't know which way to move in their career, or they know which way they want to move, but things are just not happening in that direction. There's no momentum there, so they're stuck. Things feel perhaps sometimes a little bit overwhelming. So they might also be at a point of going, I've got no idea what I want to do next, and I don't even know which way to move. I'm ready to move, but I don't know which way. So there's not like I said before, they're usually highly motivated. The people that come to me, they're ready. The fact that they're contacting me and they're booking in for a masterclass, or at least looking to, they're motivated, but they are lacking the clarity of the direction that they want to move and how perhaps to move forward, what that next move might be to get them closer to where they want to be.
And this is all to do with career progression? Is this the sort of thing?
Yeah. So these particular masterclasses, next move masterclasses, are around helping, what is the next move that I make? And sometimes there's work, generally there's work for us to do. In order for us to figure out the next move, we've got to do some alignment work around where are you trying to get to, so then you can navigate what that next move might be.
Okay. So what we've got here, and this is probably enough just to get us started, Cheryl. Like, it's
Awesome.
Never done, but here's 3, and they could be overlapped, they could be the same. The important thing is just getting something out on the paper that we can then critique. Is that all right?
Awesome.
So we've got some needs. They want to get unstuck, get some change, momentum, career direction, clarity, and the masterclass will do that. So the next question is, how do you expose your products and services to these people? Now, the little explanation I've got there is the manual and automated business functions owned by this line of business that people see. That's a bloody mouthful. What are the levers that they're going to pull? So this is the first of your components within your organization that the people that you're engaging with will see.
Now, this is quite an important word, isn't it? Components within the language of Wardley mapping.
We're now getting into the real structure. We've got a C for components. So I can either, if you're clicking along here, it's pretty easy. I can either drag and drop that on there, or I can just go C and point, so you can chuck these components on. Now, for me, one of the things I learned through doing mapping is there's 2 types of components. There's visible components to the consumer of the service, and there's what I'd call invisible components. And we'll talk a little bit more about them. I don't see this separated in the training that I did or the literature I've read, but it's what I've found is helpful, because these are the things that people call them functions or features or capabilities. They're the things that are visible that your business presents to the outside world as the ways of engaging.
Yeah.
So what might be some of those things?
So one of the things that happens, perhaps someone views, so LinkedIn is where I'm sharing these masterclasses at the moment. I promote them there. And when they click on the link and they maybe go, oh, this might be something I'm interested in, they click on the link and they head through to a Calendly page. Is this,
Right.
Are we starting to sort of move in the direction of what a component might be here? So this is where they essentially go to book their masterclass and pay for their masterclass. That is that perhaps a component? Is Calendly the component, or is the booking and paying for their masterclass?
Let's put the 2 of them in there. So book and how do you spell Calendly?
Endly.
DLY.
Yeah.
And so the booking is what they do, and Calendly is the tool in the background that you have to pay for.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to just roll down here to number 5 and look at number 5, which is, where have you invested to enable the delivery of your products and services?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of some of the ways or the places to go and have a look at are things like your process and architecture diagrams. Now, you're a one-man band, you probably don't have process and architecture diagrams.
I do actually.
You do? Oh, sorry. Oh,
To be fair,
assumption.
This is part of my own personal way of working is I document a lot. So when I do a process that is one that I'm repeating, such as I've got to set up a masterclass, like I try to best I can document my process. One, so I've got it for myself for later, next time I do it. But two, with the hope that at some point, either someone can come in and help me with that, or there might be a way I could automate that. So I actually have quite a lot of my processes I document because I'm a little bit of a geek and it helps me remember.
All right. So I'm actually going to move Calendly. It's still a component just down underneath here, and say it's a little bit a question 5 answer, I think. But I also heard you say something about LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I also create the events in LinkedIn as an event, but there's currently, or as far as I'm aware, no billing mechanism in there. So no way for people to pay for the event. Someone might correct me if I'm wrong on this, which would be great because I struggle sometimes with LinkedIn events, hence what we've got possibly a live stream right now, which isn't live out to LinkedIn because something's happened with the LinkedIn events. But as a note, by the way, I've shared this backstage invite link on our post. So if anyone wants to see this, they can actually jump in. I think we've got a couple of people that have jumped in and that are just kind of hanging backstage with us. But yeah, so the LinkedIn event, so I set that up and that so that people can view that within LinkedIn. It means for me, it feels like a slightly lower commitment. You're not actually even leaving LinkedIn in order to view it. You can see a little bit about it. You could possibly put it into your event so that you can see it coming, but you're not actually registering for it there. So they then click on, there's a Calendly link that sits in there. So that's sort of an in-between step.
Okay, so I'm not a domain expert here, and Backstage is my first appearance on Backstage, and I have no idea how it all works. So I'm just going to throw these things in there. So when we're first doing this, what it's important to do is to capture all the things that you think are important. Now, I've given you questions 4 and 5. One is the things that are visible. One of the things that are sort of behind the scenes. And the ones that are behind the scenes are typically where you're starting to invest. So you're going to put some of your capital into these components so that the level 4 components or the answers to level 4 components are easy to use and engage with and compelling to use. And so you're going to be making some choices around these components that you're going to architect your system with. And some of these components will be manual processes potentially. Like it could be, I know from a little bit of insight that we were trying to set this up, you had to send emails to everybody. So I would put that there's a level 4, which is confirmation.
Yeah.
Oops, what have I done there? Oh, I just added a note. So let me just get rid of that.
So you can add a note to the map.
You just see me add a note.
Awesome.
I want to get rid of it. It's causing me a pain here. Hang on, let's click on here and delete. Gone. We'll add some notes in a minute. This big box here is actually a note, this box on the left here. So I was able to add a note.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that's just that little capability. If I scroll down, just got to move my screen a fraction. Just down here is the note. So it's quite flexible how we do this. Now, we've got Backstage, we've got book, event. What about finding the event? There's going to be a find there somewhere?
Finding the event. So when we're talking about, there's got to be another one here. That's their, they likely, how I imagine, it pops up in their feed. That's probably that's how I think the people that have attended and registered so far have come through because they've seen the event pop up.
And that would be within LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Let's add something here.
I'm loving, by the way, as you're doing this, watching all of our conversations appear visually in the bottom left corner with Indie dust. It's amazing.
All right. So I'm just conscious of the time because we've got to 3:40, and one of the things is we've gone through some stuff here. You can keep on going down. Once you get to this level 5 question, you've got components on components, and depending on what areas and how technical your products are, and you will go down further and further. But what I'd just like to do now is start to do the next step in the map, because at some stage you stop your initial scoping and throwing ideas down, and you now start to get some shape to the map. So the next 2 steps we're going to do is giving the map some shape. So if you're okay, I'm going to get rid of my note here, and I can do that by, look at that.
Whoa.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
That's
And
really
I can
cool.
just, hang on. I might have made it too small to move it. Yep. Oh, yeah. User error here. Come on, baby.
Yeah, so you can adjust that bit, and then the size. Looks like the note itself has got a little arrow in the bottom corner of it.
Yep. User. Oh, there we are. I'm not sure why I'm having so much trouble there. All right. Now we've got, if we have a look, and I'm hoping I'm sort of bouncing between screens here. I'll just bring it across into the middle. What we've got here is just a blank canvas. A Wardley map is, and this is one of the strengths or one of the key things that makes Wardley strategic mapping different to any other sort of mapping or any other strategy documents, techniques, is the way that he uses a map and the way that he defines a map. He tries to draw a parallel to something where the position on the piece of paper is important, just like a map. So he draws the analogy with a map of New Zealand, for example. And we know that at the further northern end of our major cities is Auckland on our North Island, and at the bottom of the North Island is Wellington. And it's about 600 kilometres between them, and in between there's a whole lot of cities. And you can't just move a city. There's got to be an earthquake for that to happen. We have a lot of earthquakes in New Zealand, so it could happen, I guess. But typically there's certain things you put on the map, and now they're the things that describe your map. Now, a map basically has a north-south and an east-west. Now, in MapKeep, they've got this cool little technique down the very bottom here, which is called layering. To get the full layering, you hang on. What have I done here? That's the way I'm presenting. Done.
Oh, you got to upgrade to enable layers.
No, I don't.
Oh.
But for some reason, the sharing has caused me a little bit of a problem here.
Oh, because gotcha.
Let's hide it. Okay. Technical glitch here, because what I want to do is I want to introduce the axes of the map, which correlate, in my simple way of thinking about it, north-south, east-west. So just give me a second as I try and get rid of this. Got a private map. How am I don't know what I've done here.
Do you reckon it changed possibly with sharing it?
Let me just stop sharing a second, and I'll just give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, I can we can take a little look. See if I can zoom in on this.
Look, I don't know why I've got that. Let me come back out and come back in again then.
We can see a bit of live visualization going on here. There we go. This is while you're doing all of your amazing mapping, we've got our strategic visual storytelling going on in the background, which is so cool. Whoa.
So Indi's doing her thing. I've had a little bit of a glitch in my knowledge of my tool, but I think I can get away with it. So I'll come back and share back shares if you.
Yep. All right. Let me know when you've got your screen share up.
Shez, do you want me to play a replay of the drawing now while you have a little gap? All right, let me just change my settings. Is that now showing you everything?
Yep.
Excellent. So this is a time-lapse replay of the drawing. So obviously our wonderful host, Cheryl, and agilePete. So we've created a canvas here that can host all of the information that we're kind of exploring today. So I've broken it up into 2 canvases so far. So first of all, that high-level Wardley mapping, the crystal ball to the future. This idea that it's really not easy to explain. Your first map could take 7 years, but wait, it's okay. I'm just gonna explain to you why can you, what are the steps you can take to make this much less a matter of procrastination and more about action. So on the right, you'll see the 5 steps to get started. And I've replaced the word people with humans because we are humans at work. So who are the humans that are buying your products and services? And yeah, I think that's really cool. And then on the left, I've just been capturing little important things that agilePete's been sharing about. Maps are never perfect. It's about your position on the map that is important. So yeah, that's a bit of a storyline of what we've been talking about today.
Holy moly, that is awesome. Thank you, Indi. Magic dust that's going on over there. God, we're just creating. I'm not sure what's going on with our live streaming, but what we're creating here backstage is amazing. And as a note, we'll be able to pull the recording from this as well. So if we are having issue getting out to the real world from our backstage, we will have a recording to share of this as well. So we'll be back in action, sharing that up. All right. I'm looking there, agilePete, for your screen to open it. I'm not seeing it come through at the moment.
Okay, let me just...
Loving all these different views, by the way. Jump between these.
Let me just... yeah, okay, let's do the share. I've got a little bit... I've obviously done something in my setup here, but I can get it. So what we've got is a little tool here down the bottom. Is it sharing now?
Yep.
Yep. And I click on that and I can go to these layering. Oh.
Here we go.
And I think I can sneak in here. Oh, gutted. The option that I'm looking for is under this bar at the top. So I'm actually not quite sure why my bars come up. Go to the MapKeep website. No, don't want to do that. Hide collaborators curses. No. Done.
Can you, that little button in the bottom right corner, where to expand the screen, does that possibly? No, that changes what's on that view.
Let me maybe make it zoom out a little bit. No, it's not changing the right-hand side there. Because I need, done.
Need the layers.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
And is this on your computer? Can you change the screen size at all of the...
Yes, there must be something that I've done that has caused that to happen. I can move my map around. I can make my map bigger if I want to, but I just can't. Okay, let me give another try. Aha, let's try this. Now, I've got to... Oh, okay, let me just try something else. Painful.
Do you reckon this is it? People are this is the point that certainly if I was doing this on my own, I would probably hit a point like this and go, oh, bit too hard, I'll come back to it.
Like I'm going to tell you that there's a y-axis, because I can do the other part of it. There's a y-axis that'll come up, which I'll just turn that off a second. Will come up, and what it will allow us to do is the vertical talks about north-south. We know that right at the top of our map, we'll just get rid of that one for the time being. We've got our anchor point, which is our motivated leaders. So we're just going to move them around and we're going to put them at the top. And what we've got, I've got 2 seconds. Users, I've really screwed this up somehow.
Oh, this is cool. I'm with you. I tell you what, just this, like I said, the simple process of going through these is helping. Well, it's certainly reminding me of the power of visualizing these conversations as well. Not only like right now, you're creating a map and he's creating a map. There's all this visual richness of the conversation. And thinking about for my own business, I think one of the things that can easily happen is that people can get stuck in the thoughts of it, and having someone to help facilitate those thoughts and get them out is super valuable, really, really helpful. Like even just looking at what you've captured there for myself, like, oh, there's a couple of great bullet points about my ideal customer. So it's, I know that we're all over with our tool, but at the same time, it's real. It's a real conversation.
I've solved the problem. So thank you for outliving the issues. And what I've got here is I've clicked on the bottom, and it was to do with the way I'd actually been zooming in and out on the screen. I kind of got carried away. But I've clicked on this bottom, which is the layering. To use the full extent of the layering, you need a paid account. But what you've got is some settings here, and we've got these 2 things that I've hidden at the moment. And the first one I'm going to hide is the value chain. And you see on the left side of my map now, It goes from invisible to visible. So very visible is your customer, your motivated, intelligent leader. And then the next level of visibility that we've got is our needs. Now, what I can do is I can move things individually, or I can just move.
Do you mind just sharing with me a little bit around invisible and visible?
Let's work our way through it and go at this level. We're going to create some lines between these things, and we're going to say this customer, this motivated customer, wants to get unstuck. They want to get some change momentum, and they want to get some career direction. Now, they are the needs. That's the reason that they're going to come and use your service, which is Cheryl's masterclasses.
Yeah.
Now, in order for them to use your service, they're going to want to be able to find your service. Oops, hang on. Let me just move it across. The first thing they're probably wanting to do is find your service. Delete that. So let's go. So there'll be a find.
Yep.
They'll want to be able to probably view the event. We'll just change that to view. May or may not. They may be totally. They probably want to book it, and it could be. If I just draw another line, book it, and then pay for it. It could be that in order to pay for it, they've got to book it. So we just change this line in the relationship here. We change this line. Oops, I don't want to delete all of them. And we put a line from the booking to book it. I need to make a payment. Make sense? Oops.
Yes.
And so that becomes a little bit lower. So what we've got is you don't see payment until you're ready to book. So once you're booking, you see the payment option there. Now, in order to do the booking, you'll need to find a slot in your calendar. So we'll need Calendly. So we'll move. We'll move Calendly around here. we've got this little component called LinkedIn. What was that? What was the relevance of that? Was that
That was where you view the event. So you view event
so in this
and
case,
find.
LinkedIn we've got, so to view event would be the component that we're using is LinkedIn. So you're going to send a message through LinkedIn. Where did Backstage come into this?
Well, that's the tool's actually called Restream is the platform, but that's the tool that we're in here.
So I need to rechange this name to Restream.
Yeah.
What Restream? Okay, and is this when we actually are attending?
Yeah.
So have we got another capability or function here, which is called
attend? Join?
Attend. Okay, we'll just call that. So let's put another link in up here. So the attention, and then as we attend, you're going to use Restream to actually run this and deliver your material.
Yeah.
We had another component there, which was event promotion in your feed.
So that was probably sits up by the find.
Under the
they
find.
Kind of that's how they would, and that would also be in LinkedIn. So I don't know if those are also connected.
So what we start to see is that LinkedIn is quite a big component, isn't it? And we've got a thing called event promotion in the feed, Restream, probably parts of LinkedIn. Yeah. So what we start to do is we start to realize that, and we start to have a conversation about what level of granularity we're starting to put these components onto our map.
Mm.
All right. So as we start to do this, you might go, when I'm viewing an event, whereabouts in LinkedIn am I viewing my event? Gotcha. And fundamentally, what probably happens is that this comes down to a lower level. We have another component in here, which is I'll call it the LI view. I don't know what that is. And we just now are going to put a link from view event to some component in there that's now links down to here. And we see this stuff comes across to here. Restream comes across to here. Mm. Now, what it may or may not be useful is to have this converging again, or it may be best to leave them at their component levels, just knowing that the event promotion, the LinkedIn viewer, the Restream are all components of LinkedIn. Yeah. Because I think what happens is as we start to get into the space, you've said that Restream is really new, whereas event promotion and viewing the LinkedIn viewing are probably
new to me. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been around. It's new to me.
All right. So the second thing that we're going to do then, so we've now got this hierarchy. So we start at the top.
Just a note, we've got 2 minutes.
Okay. So this took a little longer than we thought, a few technical difficulties. So let me just summarize. We were at the top and we've got our customer at the top. We've got their needs. So the things that they want to get or they want to achieve by using your product. We've got our first level here, which is the capabilities that you're going to present to this outside world, to these customers. And then the next level are the components that are your internal things that you're either going to build, buy, or configure from all the toolkit that you've got in behind things. And the more you do the analysis of these things here, the more you start to understand the breakdown of the structure as well. Mm. Let me just now go. So this is our north-south axis, and let's just show the east-west axis. So this is the unique part of Wardley mapping. Value chains are not unique. This concept of every one of these components that's on our map, there's a principle behind this that says competition and capitalism force it to evolve. And it starts from an idea that's high risk and likely to fail over in the genesis area to a utility or a commodity that's highly reliable and stable within the world that you're actually working within. What we can look at, and based on our experiences, it becomes particularly important to your lower level components. Restream, from the experience that we've had, probably, I'm not going to draw a line there, I want to move them, just click on that part. Restream probably fits in this space over here. Calendly, how reliable would you find Calendly? Is it
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put it over here and go, it's probably in the product space. You just rent it.
Yeah.
LinkedIn itself is probably sitting over here. It's really quite evolved and quite stable. The LinkedIn viewer is probably over here.
I'd say that's probably a little less stable.
A little less stable. Okay. So it's over here.
Yeah.
And event promotion in the feeds.
That's pretty solid if it gets you in the right place.
Okay. Now, Restream itself is something that I'm guessing that LinkedIn have added as a recent thing. So we call it a custom component, and custom components tend to be less reliable, but they're new things that are coming out. And if you're an early adopter, they're the sort of things that you'll be looking at your business and that you think can make a difference in your business. You'll be adopting these sort of components. Other areas that are really stable and are just part of the basic operation of your business, you want those components to be over on this right-hand side. Now, over time, Restream will get more stable and it will move across. So what we're doing here is we're looking and we're understanding. Are there any components that sit there, we haven't talked about them, that you've built yourself, Cheryl, or had built?
No. Well,
No.
Not in this view that we're looking at.
Okay, so one of the things to look at here when we're actually creating this map is helping us establish a bias and have a conversation around whether the components we're using to support the capabilities that we're offering to our customers, in other words, these components that we're investing money in, are we actually using the right level of evolution of these components? In other words, if they're just standard ways we run our business, they should be over on the right-hand side, and we want highly evolved products that are highly reliable. If it's something that's a point of difference or something that we're trying to establish, we're doing this differently, we move and start looking further to the left side of it. So what we've got is a starting point. We've got some language that's come out. We've got these events. You've talked about some of these things. We've actually created some layering. We've started to position the different types of components vertically. We're starting to look at their evolution horizontally, and we're starting to look at the dependencies that exist between each of these components. Now, this is the basics. We've applied a couple of Wardley mapping principles to this, and one person who I've done a bit of work with, Ben Moisa, has a great little link talking about the principles. And part of the Wardley mapping doctrine that's behind this is basically creating a common language, challenging our assumptions, and creating more awareness of where our components fit in terms of their evolution. So as we start to play with them, we understand the risks that we're taking and the performance that we're likely to get out of those components. And that's probably about as much as we can get in.
Amazing.
I will put a little link for you to pop into for people to go and have a look at Ben's website.
So you should, pop it either in the private chat and I can put it over, or the chat on the right-hand side of the screen. You can put things in there as well.
Can't quite see where I can actually add stuff in there. So
that's okay. If you pop it in the private chat, I can
private
put it over. Well done. Well done in rolling with what's been a whole lot of real live testing. This is a real lab, isn't it? Where the testing is happening in real time. You've done amazing at being able to navigate and navigate this tool live as well. I've got a lot to process and a lot to consider here, and I think we might need another one of these sessions where we can probably take some of this and do more with it to really, I guess, start to see how this mapping, it's been a fantastic process just to help me get some of these things out of my head, but I feel like the real value is going to come when we start to play with it. So I would love to ask you back onto the show at some point for us to take this and take it to, like another level of really seeing how this map can provide that crystal ball. So thank you, agilePete.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We've got a map out. It's very, very basic, and we got a map out. So
we got a map out.
Yes, exactly.
Woohoo!
We overcame our procrastination. How's it gone,
Yeah.
Indy?
Oh, fantastic. It's been an awesome conversation to capture. And I'm not sure whether you can see there. Can I zoom in? It won't let me zoom, but I've sort of started capturing some of those high level pieces on the value chain, the visible to the invisible, showing the map, going from that genesis of an idea right through to evolution. Obviously, you've got a lot more detail on your map, but I think it's kind of some core ideas people can take away and remember when they, maybe if you actually wait a few months before you start your own map, you could go back to this and it will kind of refresh the beautiful conversation I've watched today.
So you're
Oh,
saying it'll enable people to procrastinate and still take action?
Well, maybe you need this little
6
bit
years,
of
11 months.
procrastination. Yeah. Fantastic work, guys.
so
Well,
cool.
hopefully it's given people some ideas. This was a little bit challenging. We certainly hadn't tried to prepare this. This is the way it is. It's messy. And one of the things I'd suggest is basically preparing people to come along and just be creative, dump stuff out, start playing with it.
Exactly. And the moment you started moving things around and creating connections, I can see the conversations become richer and richer as you go. So incredible. Thank you, agilePete, for your mapping. Thank you, Indie Dust, for your visual storytelling. We can see the live visual storytelling here. We've got a real map that's sitting there. So I feel like we achieved our outcome. Our next, our next challenge is how we get it back out to the world. Maybe that we share this video afterwards, and would love to take this to another level. We'll be much more polished next time. But thank you for your experimentation. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to continuing to learn with you guys here on Humans at Work.